Periscope doing something new with this thing in the corner? For followers to share, start teaching. Okay. See, Periscope is making some changes. Good evening for those of you catching the replay. Today is Money Monday, and today I will be sharing some savings tips. Good evening, Brother Chris. I hope you're well this evening. All right, good evening. For those of you catching this on the replay, good evening to all of you, and thank you for tuning in for Money Monday. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Janae Murphy. I'm the principal financial consultant and co-founder of Hand in Hand Investment Solutions, where we specialize in teaching individuals how to be better money managers and preparing them for home ownership. So everything that we teach is centered around the principle of good stewardship. And so every Monday I do a live broadcast here on Periscope at 7 p.m. to teach on different topics that's geared towards helping you to save money and build wealth. And so today I titled the Periscope as Putting Your Savings on Autopilot. This was a tip I actually shared on Facebook. I did a Facebook Live on my personal page during the holiday weekend. And so I wanted to come on here on Periscope for those of you who may not be connected with me on Facebook, so you can get that information as well. So good evening for those of you popping in. Please let me know who you are so I know who's on with me. And if you wouldn't mind, please invite your followers. So putting your savings on autopilot. So that topic is exactly what I'm talking about, putting your savings on autopilot. So a lot of requests that I get is to share tips on saving, how people can go about saving money, especially if they're not disciplined with putting the money away. They may not even have a savings account to put money away in. So I get questions all the time, you know, how do I go about saving when I'm constantly spending money? So this is my #1 tip for being able to save money and put away money if you're somebody who has trouble with spending, or you're somebody who's not disciplined with saving money on a regular basis. And so what I mean by this is you are looking at how much you make and what your expenses are, and you're coming up with a number that you can comfortably afford to put away each month in a savings account. Whether that's $25, whether it's $100, whether it's $500. You need to first sit down and figure out what your expenses are each month. And based on how much you make, do simple subtraction to figure out how much you typically should have left over. Good evening. How much you should have left over. And then from that figure, you can come up with a number that you'd be comfortable with setting aside each and every paycheck, or each and every time that you get money in. So that's the first step. So figuring out a number that you feel comfortable with. Once you have that number, you have to figure out where you're going to put it. So when I was working in corporate America, when they ask you to set up your direct deposit for your paycheck, usually they give you this form that you fill out and you put your bank account information. So one way you can direct these funds to go into this savings account is via direct deposit through your job. So I set up my direct deposit. At the time, I had $500 going to my savings account, and the rest was coming to my checking account. And because I set it up that way, I literally put my savings on autopilot. So each month, like clockwork, every time I got paid, I knew that I would have $500 going automatically to my savings account, and the rest would be in my checking. And my checking which is actually with a different bank than my savings account. My checking account would be the account that I pay all my bills out of. So if the money was not in my checking account, I wasn't able to spend it because I don't have a debit card or any kind of card for my savings account. So after you figure out the amount that you would feel comfortable with setting aside each time you get paid or each pay period, after you figure that out, then you have to figure out where you're going to put it. So this can be a savings account that you set up, preferably at a bank that's not connected with your checking account. You want to make sure that it's in an institution or in a place that's not easily accessible. I shared this example as well. So my checking account is with Wells Fargo. My savings account is with Virginia Credit Union. Two separate banks, they run on two separate schedules. So whenever I try to send money over to Virginia Credit Union from Wells Fargo, it takes at least 5 days. So that's why through my job, I set up my direct deposit to just automatically go to my savings account in the credit union. And because the banks are, like, I'm starting to see that they're not so far apart. So for the Virginia credit unions that are in my area, Wells Fargo is not too far away. Now, that's not because of Virginia Credit Union. That's simply because of Wells Fargo. One of the main reasons why I bank with Wells Fargo, who used to be Wachovia, is because they're like McDonald's. They're within a 5-block radius, most likely. So that's why, good evening, that's why I chose to bank with Wells Fargo. So that's why they happen to be so close together. But ideally, or theoretically, the institution that you use your normal checking account out of and the one that you use for your savings account, they should not be the same bank. Those accounts should not be connected. And your savings account, you want to make sure it's not easily accessible. So whenever I want to take money out of my savings account, I have to take time out of my schedule to go to the bank during that 8 to 6 o'clock hour, or 9 to 6 o'clock hour rather, which is inconvenient. So unless I really need the money, I'm not going to go through that much of an inconvenience to take money out. So that's kind of how you trick yourself into not taking money out of your account. Because when you have to work for something, then I'll just be honest, we're in a day and age where people are lazy. They want things instantly, they want things right away. And so if we got to work to get something, the chances are we're probably not going to do whatever work needs to be done, unless we really, really, really need to get it done. So just like when you're in a store and you're trying to get in some retail therapy because you feel you just need to shop, once some time goes by, that feeling kind of dissipates and it's like you never even had it. It just kind of goes on. So the same way, if you get an urge to pull money out of your savings account and your savings account is in a bank or institution that's nowhere near you, then once you think about all you'll have to do in order to get the money, chances are you probably won't make the time to go out and get it. So you're tricking yourself into keeping the money where it is. So after you figure out what amount that you would feel comfortable with setting aside and you figure out where you're going to put it, then you have to I'm drawing a blank here. Good evening. For those of you just joining, we're talking about putting your savings on autopilot. All right, so once you figure out the number that you want to save and where you want to put it, you do need to decide how often you're going to do it. I would recommend you do it each time you get paid, or every pay period. Some people get money for, other things outside of their normal twice a month check or monthly check. So I recommend making this a regular habit. In addition to brick and mortar, meaning actual buildings that are banks, there are also online institutions. And so you can just Google online savings account, online checking account. I actually opened up a online checking account with FNBO Direct. It's strictly an online account. They don't have an actual building in my area, so it's entirely online, and I call that my fun fund. I set that up specifically for travel, when I want to shop on a whim, and when I want to eat out on a whim. And the reason why I set this up is because I know that I like to eat out. I know that I like to shop. I know that I like to travel. But I don't necessarily have money in my budget every month after paying my bills, after putting money in savings, after paying my tithes. I don't normally have, a whole bunch of money left over to take a vacation. So I set money aside each and every month that goes into this account, so that way when I want to shop, when I want to travel, when I want to eat out, that money is available and it doesn't disrupt my bills from being paid. It doesn't disrupt me from having extra money left over during the month. And so I'm making allowances for my mistakes in a sense. So I know I'm going to have those moments, and you got to learn yourself. You have to know your tendencies. If you know that you're somebody who likes to shop, if you know you're somebody who likes to eat out, set a budget for that. So I put this my fun fund as a line item in my budget. It's in addition to my regular savings, and so I set that money aside each and every month. And so that money is strictly dedicated to travel, eating out, and shopping. And that way it doesn't interrupt the money that I use to pay bills. And usually with the money left over, I use that towards the money that I need to spend during the month. So if I have a birthday party to go to, or an event that I want to go to, and the tickets cost, I would factor that into my budget. But I know each and every month I have money going to the side for travel, for eating out, for shopping. And so I'm making allowances for the things that I like to do, so that way that money is available. All right. See a few people popping in and out. So are there any questions on saving? Again, we're talking about putting savings on autopilot. If you have any questions on savings tips, if you have particular scenarios that you're experiencing currently, that you'd like some advice on, I'd be happy to answer them. I'll also say good evening. I'll also say that for the Black Friday weekend, I did release an online personal finance course. And so the tip I just discussed today is actually featured in that course. It's called Money Management 101. And so that is discounted from, it's actually valued at $250 because it's like working with me for 2 hours. But it's discounted for the Black Friday holiday weekend, including today, Cyber Monday, for only $29. And so that will be available until 11:59 p.m. for those of you catching the replay. My website is linked in my bio, so it's handinhandinvestmentsolutions.com. Once you go to the website, you'll see the graphic on the home screen. And so if you're interested in more savings tips, getting help with budgeting, and really getting clear on what your financial goals are, that is available to you. After midnight tonight, the price will go up by at least $20. So if that's something that you know you need, please make sure you take advantage of that discount. All right, Russia in the house. All right, so we're actually wrapping up. I haven't seen any questions come through yet, but I really hope that y'all will take advantage of this tip, because we're the type of people, if we don't have the money available to us, then we can't spend it. And so by putting your savings on autopilot, that's a way that you can force yourself to be disciplined, because once you don't have that money available to you, number one, you won't be able to spend it, so you'll really be forcing yourself to live off of less money. So it's forcing you to be disciplined, but it's also helping you move closer and closer towards your financial goals. So it's important when you're thinking about how much you want to set aside to save, you need to be thinking about what your financial goals are. So when I was putting aside $500 a month, I knew that one day I wanted to buy a house. I didn't know how much the house was going to be. I didn't know when I was going to buy it. But I knew that I was going to have a sizable amount of income in order to put a down payment on the house. And so I saved as much as I could. And that money actually ended up coming in handy, not for just my down payment, but when I moved from corporate America to a nonprofit and took a $21,000 pay cut, that money that I had saved for 3.5 years helped supplement my income for 2 whole years. So I want you to be thinking about what your long-term financial goals are, because every little bit that you do now can help you in the future and could potentially save you in the future. I don't know, it wouldn't have been easy at all if I did not save as much money as I saved prior to making my career change. And so again, make allowances for your mistakes. I just knew that I had to have a substantial amount of money set aside for buying a house. I knew about having an emergency fund, so I wanted to make sure that was available as well. And so thinking about all those things, you know, I couldn't put away $20 a month because that wouldn't get me anywhere. But when you're thinking about a house, when you're thinking about having, 3 to 6 months of expenses set aside, those are, some pretty big numbers. So I know I had to put away a big chunk of money in order to make any kind of progress towards those goals. And so if you have large goals, then you have to be prepared to make whatever sacrifices you have to in lowering your expenses, so that way you can put away a decent amount of money. If your financial goals don't require that much money, then you can get away with putting away, a little bit here, a little bit there, kind of like what I'm doing with my fund. Sometimes overnight stay in Williamsburg is fine. Sometimes I want to go to Dubai. But by putting away money each month, I at least have something available to contribute towards the things that I want to do. So make sure you keep that in mind. For those of you catching the replay, if this helped you, I do ask that you share it, because I believe that this can help someone else too. So it doesn't look like there are any questions. So thank you all for tuning in. I'll be back again next Monday at 7 p.m. To share, more tips on managing your money. I hope you all have a great rest of the week. Thank you, Brother Chris. I really appreciate you. For those of you who just popped on, you will need to catch the replay because we're actually wrapping up. So thank you all for tuning in. You have a great evening and a great rest of the week, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.